Bank Negara Malaysia is allocating an additional 2 billion ringgit for the Targeted Relief and Recovery Facility, which is aimed at providing relief and supporting recovery for small and medium enterprises in the services sector. That doubles the total allocation to 4 billion ringgit. The central bank says it will be available until December 31st, 2021 or full utilisation, whichever is earlier. Meanwhile, BNM also announced the setting up of the 200 million ringgit Disaster Relief Facility 2021. The facility is aimed at aiding SMEs affected by the recent floods in districts identified as flood disaster areas by the National Disaster Management Agency. The maximum amount of financing available is up to 500,000 ringgit per SME and 75,000 per micro-enterprise. The tenure of the financing is up to 5 years, including a 6-month moratorium on principal and interest payments. The financing rate is up to 3.5% per annum and will be available until July 31st, 2021 or full utilisation, whichever is earlier. Affected businesses can apply for financing at a concessionary rate from participating financial institutions. Malaysian Rating Corp has cut its 2021 economic growth forecast for Malaysia from the 6.4% it announced last month to 5.6%. In a statement today, the ratings agency said growth will be supported by trade as exports outpace imports, although it will be lower versus pre-pandemic levels. As for 2020, the ratings agency maintained its forecast of minus 5.7% GDP growth, which it noted would be the sharpest decline since the 1998 Asian financial crisis. For comparison, the Ministry of Finance expects Malaysia to see economic growth of minus 4.5% in 2020, before rebounding to between 6.5% and 7.5% in 2021. MARC explained that it expects private consumption to take a hit in 2020, with growth remaining sluggish this year. It said the lower aggregate demand will result in an average inflation rate of minus 1.1% in 2020, before rising to an average of 2% in 2021. The jobless rate is seen standing at 4.5% in 2020, before improving slightly to 4% this year. While investment is set for a rebound to growth this year due to the low base effect, although it will remain constrained by mobility restrictions. Former chairman of MARA Incorporated, Datuk Mohamed Lan Alani, has pleaded not guilty to 22 counts of bribery and money laundering of 20.45 million ringgit from controversial property purchases in Melbourne, Australia. Lan Alani was charged in the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court with 20 counts of corruption under the MACC Act 2009 for receiving bribes and 2 counts of money laundering under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001. The court set bail at 400,000 ringgit and April 8th for case management. According to MACC sources, investigations into the case began after news portal The Sydney Morning Herald reported last year that a Malaysian living in Australia was charged with bribing a foreign officer relating to the sale of the Dudley International House, a student dormitory in Melbourne, to MARA Inc. The Australian newspaper The Age also claimed that a group of very wealthy Malaysian officers overpaid by 4.75 million Australian dollars or 13.8 million ringgit for an apartment block in the city in 2013, and that the difference had been channeled to several people. Dudley International House aside, MARA also owns a 12-storey building on Swanston Street and another building on Exhibition Street in Melbourne, with a combined value reaching 300 million ringgit. Petronas has reportedly warned that a delay in the completion of its 25% owned LNG Canada's liquefied natural gas project could be costly. According to Canada's The Journal of Commerce, the oil giant's president and group CEO Tengku Muhammad Taufik Tengku Aziz said in a webinar the 40 billion Canadian dollar or about 127 billion ringgit project must be completed on time in order to take advantage of the current high demand for cleaner fuel to replace coal and nuclear power. Otherwise, Canada could miss out on sales of its abundant natural gas to foreign markets that are hungry for cleaner fuel. Tengku Muhammad Taufik was also quoted as saying that the facility will help support Petronas' goal of having net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. It was reported he said he foresaw natural gas to be an important transition fuel as the world switches to cleaner sources of energy, adding that oil and gas would likely still provide almost half of total energy 20 to 30 years from now. The Court of Appeal upheld the 8-year jail sentence and fine of 1 million ringgit each on 4 former directors of Genova after it dismissed their review of the conviction and sentence yesterday. Bank Negara Malaysia Deputy Public Prosecutor Alvin Ong confirmed the outcome when contacted by theedgemarkets.com. With the dismissal of the revision, the 4 have exhausted the appeal process as this case originated at the Sessions Court, and the Court of Appeal is the final avenue to appeal. In February 2018, the previous appellate court bench ordered Ng Po Weng, Datuk Marcus Yi Yuan Seng, Chin Wai Leong and Liu Chiwa to be jailed after being found guilty of 154 counts of money laundering and 4 counts of illegal deposit taking. The panel also charged a 2 million ringgit penalty against Genova for 1 count of illegal deposit taking. Each director was sentenced to 5 years jail and a 1 million ringgit fine, or an additional year of jail if they failed to pay the fine for the illegal deposit-taking charges, and 3 years jail for the money laundering charges. The 2 sentences will run separately.